Yes, good evening to all once again for joining this Wednesday's Dhamma reading and Dhamma discussion for gaining insights in our practice and day-to-day life, growing in the Dhamma. We shall start the session with reciting Namo Tassa for 3 times. We can all recite together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. Yes. We will be reading from Bhante Vimalaramsi's transcripts available. Last time, I think we have read, I think we'll be starting MN5 without blemishes. I will be sharing the screen. Yes. Last time we have completed Bhaya Bhairava Sutta, where explanation of fear and dread was clearly explained. We have seen many examples given by Bhante. Yes, now we will be reading without blemishes. Yes, Nanda madam, you can start reading.
Without blemishes, Anangaṇa Sutta, Majjhima Nikāya. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika Park. There, the Venerable Sāriputta addressed the bhikkhus thus, "Friends, bhikkhus." "Friend," they replied. The Venerable Sāriputta said this, "Friends, there are these 4 kinds of persons found existing in the world." What for? Here some person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is. Thus, I have a blemish in myself. Here some person with a blemish understands it as it actually is. Thus, I have a blemish in myself. Here, some person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is. Thus, I have no blemish in myself. Here, some person with no blemish understand it as it actually is. Thus, I have no blemish in myself. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, we are talking about the subtler observations in the meditation. When you don't see that you have a blemish, that means you're caught up in the craving and clinging cycle. So you don't see it as it actually is. You're identifying with it. This is me. This is mine. This is who I am right now. And I don't like it. I want it to change. And then we get into our thoughts to try to control the feeling. Now, a person that has no blemish but doesn't understand it, this is where the neutral feeling is found, and you don't really see neutral feelings very often. I mean, you look at the dog, and it's a dog, and you don't it's not pleasant, it's not unpleasant. So what happens is a very subtle attachment to the ignorance arises. And what is ignorance? Not seeing and understanding the Four Noble Truths. That's what ignorance is. And that means that you are not seeing the subtle cravings that arise. Majjhima Nikāya. Herein, the person with a blemish who does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, is called the inferior of these two persons with a blemish. Herein, the person with a blemish who understands it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, is called the superior of these two persons with a blemish. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, what are we talking about here? The sharper your awareness of the distractions that occur. People have distractions all day. Their mind is going 1,000 miles away quite often when you get caught in all kinds of different things and not pay attention to what's happening. And they don't realize that that is a hindrance in itself. So they are considered inferior because they are not aware of what is mind is doing in the present moment. And when you notice that you have this kind of things and you seek out them, you turn into a superior kind of game. Your mind is much more alert. You start seeing all of these things that arise and pass away as being impersonal, and there's relief in that. The more you let go of craving, the more you start directing your mind to your wholesome object. What is that? Your object of meditation and having uplifting, happy thoughts. You are a superior type person. Have you ever walked into a room where there's somebody that's depressed? What do you feel like when you walk in? Heavy? Bhante Vimalaramsi. Heavy. That's being inferior. Going into a room where there is a person or a bunch of people that are depressed and recognize it as being like that. And you just start letting it go and start radiating loving kindness. Now you've turned into a superior being. And the people that are depressed will start to come up to the level of your mind. If you're not really aware of that, it's very easy to get caught by it. I used to spend a lot of time going into the hospitals, 2 or 3 times a week actually, and I was seeing people that were suffering greatly, physically and mentally. And I got in a habit of when I'm walking down the hallway, I'm telling myself, it doesn't matter what they're experiencing. It's okay for them to experience it. I can love them no matter what. So generally by the time I get to that person's room, I'm feeling pretty good. And I walk in and I sit down and they quite often will go, there's relief because I'm giving them the space to be the way they want to be at that moment or the way they are at that moment. It doesn't have anything to do with what's quite often and allowing it to be okay in my mind as I allow them that space and send them love and kind thoughts, then the pain that they experience starts to go away. Now, this is a definition of compassion, and an awful lot of people we have some articles about compassion come through here in magazines, and they talk about getting burnt out from practicing compassion. Why in the world would you get burnt out practicing compassion? Well, I'm trying to take some of their pain away. Stop right there. I can't take your pain away. You can't take my pain away. But I can be happy in the present moment. And guess what happens? What that happens? And that's how you turn into a superior type of being. And don't get prideful about it, House. Six are that too.
Yes, madam. We can pause here and we'll just go through the what Bante was saying. Basically, the sutta is about blemishes, and it was said that there are four kinds of persons who like having a blemishes. And Bante was telling that this circular thing which is talking about here is having a blemish. That means we are getting caught in craving and clinging cycle. And when we actually see, identify it, that this is mine, this is me, this is who I am, right? And I don't like it, and I want it to change. Basically, Bante was emphasizing that changing a present moment by way of making the things happen, like wanting things happen, is something Bante is emphasizing. Like we can see whatever actually happening actually, instead of making it things happen in the way which we want. And regarding blemishes, Bante was explaining about observing about 6 hour. Like definitely when we see things in a clear way, like we have a sharper awareness. Like let us say we are mindful enough, we could able to easily recognize how our mind's attention is moving from one thing to another. And next, Bante was emphasizing about having uplifting and happy thoughts as the object of meditation. And really, the inspiring story here is Bante used to go to hospitals like 2 to 3 times a week. And like, Bante could able to give some space to them for the persons who are suffering, allowing their mind to be okay with loving and kind thoughts. It's really a compassion act. Yes, Nanda madam. Do you want to add anything? Or you may please.
Yeah, it is very interesting to hear uh, Bhante Vimalaramsi is saying self-awareness in him is very deeply developed. So if with the 6 hour practice, we too can the self-awareness, because my understanding is when we practice the 6 hour, we are weakening the craving element. So therefore, we can develop the self-awareness. And when we are among people who are uh, feeling unhappy or depressed for some reason, for illnesses or something, we can remember to radiate feelings of unconditional universal kindness, Bhante call loving kindness, metta. So that actually I have noticed it does change the our minds as well as the people around us. So this is really beautiful way Bhante Vimalaramsi explaining how we can use radiating metta in these situations. Very interesting. Thank you.
Yes, really, the example of hospital is very interesting. I will be reading few pages, ma'am. Herein, the person with no blemish, who does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have no blemish, is called the inferior of these two persons with no blemish. Herein, the person with no blemish who understand it as it actually is, thus, I have no blemish, is called the superior of these two persons with no blemish. Bante. So, being aware that there is a blemish, we are talking about hindrance. It's always better to notice when there is a hindrance, because then you can start sixaring it and let go of the attachment to it. So your mind becomes uplifted when you do that. And that way, now, one of the things that happen with lot of teachers that are teaching Vipassana right now, straight Vipassana, is that they take the hindrance to be an enemy to fight with, then try to stop from happening. That's real different kind of perspective than what the Buddha was talking about. Now, I will give you an example in the Satipatthana Sutta, the discourse on mind objects. It talks about the five hindrances. First thing that are these are the mind objects, which is to MN 10.3. Here, there being sensual desire in him, a bhikkhu understand there is sensual desire in him. So right now you are talking about a superior kind of person, or there being no sensual desire in him, he understands there is no sensual desire in him. Again, the superior kind of person, because you are aware of what's there and what's not. And he also understands. Now this gets tricky. How there comes to be the arising of unarisen sensual desire, and how there comes to be the abandoning of arisen sensual desire, and how there comes to be the future non-arising of abandoned sensual desire. Now, this is, I don't care which one of the hindrances you want to put in there. Now, this is really interesting because they are saying practice the 6R, guys, that takes care of it, right effort. Remember the four kinds of right effort. Recognize when when an unwholesome state is there. Let it be. Relax. Bring up a wholesome state and keep that wholesome state going. That's what it is says right there. Isn't that interesting? So, when you do that, you're actually a superior kind of being. You're not muddied up by the hindrance itself. You're seeing it as part of the process to siksari and let it be and relax. And as you do that, you let go of the personal belief that those feelings are yours. Now, why do these feelings arise? Because the conditions are right for them to arise. I mean, somebody that you love very dearly dies. Is there going to be sadness? You bet there's going to be sadness. And it's all right for the sadness to be there. It has to be all right because that's the truth. It's a painful feeling. As you relax into that feeling and allow the space for that feeling to be, without trying to control it or do anything with it in particular, and you come back and smile and send loving kindness to your object of meditation, you will always know what sadness is. You will let go of the pain of it. Now, you will always remember that person that died, even if they died a very cruel kind of death. They were killed in a car accident or whatever. But you will remember them kindly and not have the grief. What is grief? It manifests in all kinds of different ways. It can manifest as sadness, it can manifest as anger, it can manifest as anxiety. Take your pack, pick. It doesn't matter. But it's always very painful because we take those thoughts and feelings personally. As we continually use the 6 hours, then we start to see how we hold on to these things, how we cause our own suffering. And you will get to Get to a state and you will go, what I am doing? Am I doing that to myself? I don't need to do that. And then their pain is, the feeling is still there, but the suffering is not more. It takes practice, but you are starting to really understand it now because you are going through it. That's I love the hindrance. I do because they are the ones that are teaching you. They are the ones that are teaching you how you cause your own suffering, and they are teaching you the way the cessation of suffering. If you remember to siksar it, and you will get caught sometimes, and it's okay to get caught for periods of time. Just as soon as you notice it, caught again. Developing your sense of humor about getting caught in essential part of the practice because it changes your perspective every time. Is it okay to? When I often think, when I notice I get caught in his, I keep thinking, I think student, Sister Kima, I think it's mind that got caught. Student, right? Bante of course it is. Student. So I, student. So I think something like what a silly one. Bante Vimalaramsi. Yeah, mind is crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. And that's how you can start to have fun, because it's going to try to do all kinds of things that are going to try to pull you down because of your because of your old habitual tendencies. And I am not talking necessarily just in the life in this lifetime. You might have been having in this habitual tendency for 500 lifetimes. Okay, but as you see it, it goes from this is mine, this is who I am, to gestures. Look at how crazy this mind is. That's perfect. I had a student that one time he got to a certain place in his meditation. He started giggling while he was sitting. Remember that? And everybody around him started feeling really happy because he was doing that. And he could not stop himself. He was just giggling. Oh, 4 or 5. It's great stuff. It wasn't any loud thing. It was just little snickers, you know, student. I did too. I didn't feel bad about it. I just said, well, Bante, wouldn't ask me to sit still. No, I would allow you to do that because look at how much clearer your mind is when you are doing that. Look at how much more alert your mind is. I have no problem with that at all. But if you go to a Vipassana retreat and you sit there, you start giggling, they are going to want to know what you are doing because it's not right. Okay. Yes. Clearly, Bante was explaining the his own experiences with the students here. Yes. Bante was explaining about the importance of 6 hours, and Bante was explaining about the right effort which in our practice, we 6 hour, we practice it. Like we recognize when an unwholesome state is there. Let it be relaxed, bring up an wholesome state, and keep that wholesome state going. This is what the Buddha taught, which is called as right effort, which our practice is inbuilt on it. And Bante was explaining about an incident where if someone dies who is very dearly to us and they die, and definitely we may feel sad. But when you relax, when you apply 6 hours, when you relax and making a space to it, and you can come back to loving kindness on your object of meditation, it's fine. Pain will be there, but you will not feel pain to be. And whatever the instance it may be, like whatever the case may be, the person maybe have been died. No matter what may be the situation, you will feel not have that kind of things when you do 6 hours. And when we like we can see how our mind makes our own suffering. Bhante was emphasizing on it. And it's fine, like sometimes it may happen that we may get caught in some things. And when we recognize that we are caught in our mind, just be relaxed. And yes, we have got caught in our mind, and develop a sense of humor in it. Bhante was emphasizing about hold habitual tendencies. And it may, Bhante was telling that it might be around 500 lifetimes that we are doing in the same situation, taking this is mine, this is who I am. And it takes something like it takes some time what we could able to feel. And Bante was telling that when you are basically if we are practicing for longer periods of life, we are sitting for a meditation, our mind is so pure. Bante was emphasizing on that. Yes, Nanda madam, you can please explain.
Student, I did too, and Bhante Vimalaramsi, sorry,
No, no problem.
Majjhima Nikāya 5, Section 3. When this was said, the Venerable Mahamoggallana asked the Venerable Sāriputta, Friend Sāriputta, what is the cause and reason why of these two persons with a blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called the superior man? What is the cause and reason why of these two persons with no blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called a superior man? Section 4. Herein, friend, where a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will not arouse zeal, make effort, or instigate energy to abandon that blemish. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Why? Because you're so caught up in it. Student. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Well, they just don't understand and they take it personally. That's the whole point of the inferior and superior. One takes it personally, the other one doesn't. Whether they truly see it as it actually is depends on their attachment to what arises in the present moment and their old habitual tendencies. Now, you can have something happen when you were 5 or 6 years old. Let's say, you were in a dark room and something happened to cause fear come up. So every time you got into the dark room after that, fear came up. After you get a little older, you start overcoming it. But because of not noticing that grip that your mind has on that and the attachment to the fear, you just go about your business, but you never really like being in dark places. And it can affect you all the way into your 50s and 60s and 70s. And by that time, you got that habit so well ingrained, and that is just because of the attachment to the first time being scared in a dark place. I used to have that fear of lightning, used to scare the heck out of me. And my father sat me down and he talked about the lightning and what it is and how it works and all of that sort of thing. And I said, yes, and I've seen a cow that got hit by it and I don't want it anywhere close to me. Laughs, interruption and laughter. But meditation, but eventually it got so that I lost the attachment to it after doing the meditation. I've been meditating since I was 28 years old, so I've learned to actually rather enjoy it. I can remember one time in San Francisco, there was a lightning shower, and they said in the newspaper the next day, after they had pictures of it, that there was something like 3,000 strikes of lightning in like 15 minutes or something like that. I mean, a light show was unbelievable, and it woke me up out of a dead sleep. And I went, wow, this is great. And I started to go outside, and the lightning hit the street right in front of me. And I went, well, maybe we'll catch it from inside. Laughs. Well, let's go over this once again. Majjhima Nikāya repeats, herein, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will not arouse zeal, make effort, or instigate energy to abandon that blemish, and that he will die with lust, hate, and delusion, with a blemish, with mind defiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or a smithy covered with dirt and stains, and the owners neither use it nor had it cleaned, but put it away in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get more defiled and stained later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind defiled. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, there's the importance of being around someone as they're dying can never be overstated. There are certain visions that happen, okay? They can be very close to death, and you can be talking with them and ask them what they see. And now they might have enough consciousness to be able to speak. But you can also put your hand either on their forehead or on their heart, and you can talk with them mind to mind. What kind of vision do you see? Now, if they see a vision of fire, that is the symbol of the hell realm. If they see a vision of black beings, sometimes they're hairy and you can't see, it's like a big foot, you know completely, but all black. Sometimes it's black animals. Now, this is a vision that happens when you have greed in your mind. You can have a vision of animals like going to the zoo or seeing animals in the forest. Let's step back. When you have a vision of fire, if you die at that moment, you will be reborn in the hell realm. If you have a vision of orgies or black animals of some kind dragging you off, you will be reborn as one of these kind of beings. You can have a vision of animals and you will be reborn as an animal that corresponds with delusion. You can have a vision of past relatives, seeing them that have already died, but now you see them. That means when you die at that time, you will be reborn a human being. Or you can see devas coming down in a chariot, and there's devas in the chariot that will come and take you away. They are going to take you to heavenly realms. But the last moment, if you haven't developed your mind very much, you will have the tendency to have your old habitual thinking arise. Do you remember that statement? What we think and ponder on, that's the inclination of our mind. Well, if we have a whole lifetime of thinking and pondering of something in the same way, if you haven't got enough energy and effort and clarity of mind, then it will revert back to your habitual tendency. So the last moment before death is very important. Now, a friend of mine in India wrote a small book on this, and he was called to someone that was dying, and he would chat for a little while, and then he would be quiet for a little while and say, "Are you saying any visions?" And they corresponded just like I was talking about with all these different mental states, and he'll have a thought about material things. Now, in India, when you die on a mattress, that mattress is supposed to be burnt, or actually, it's Bangladesh. But this was a new mattress, and he wanted to be taken off of this mattress and put on another mattress so that this could be given to one of the family members. And then he started feeling like he was being pulled by his feet by these big monster black things. So the monk would start chanting again, and then that vision would go away. In America, this kind of thing is definitely not understood. And the chanting, unless they understand what the chanting actually is, it can be helpful or not. When I spent time in a nursing home, my mother ran a nursing home, and I was there for almost a year. And I would go to my mother and I would say, "Do you see the signs of anybody that's going to die in the next few days?" And she was great at being able to recognize all of these signs because there was about 50 people a year that died. So she would tell me, this person is going to die in 3 or 4 days. So I would spend 4 days with them. I was reading from the Bible because I don't care anything to keep your mind uplifted. And then before they died, if the family wasn't there, I would have them take the 5 precepts in their mind. Quite often they were too weak to be able to do it verbally. So I told them just to take this precept right now. I'm not going to kill any living beings on purpose. I'm not going to steal anything. I'm not going to have any wrong sexual activity. Now, when you take the 5 precepts, that makes your mind incredibly uplifted and pure. And then what I would do would tell them to remember the times when they were happy and giving to other people. It didn't matter whether it's to their family, it doesn't matter. And I would see people die with these beautiful smiles on their face. It was great stuff, and it's real interesting. And I got to learn a lot being there a whole year. And that time, I was starting to help set up hospice, and I was teaching people how to be with somebody when they were dying, because everybody, when they start in hospice, they wanted to take the pain away, and it just doesn't work. So it was a real interesting period of time. Now, I was working at the hospital. I was making $100 take home. I was paying $50 a week room and board. One of the patients I thought would benefit a lot from getting acupuncture. So I got permission to take this person to an acupuncturist. But the family said, "You can do that if you want, but we are not going to pay for it." And I said, "I don't care. I'll pay for it." And that was £35 a week. £30, $35 a week. I gave $10 to my mother. I gave $10 to a monastery, and that add up to, you'll find out that it's more than $100 a week, and that's all I made. And I had a magic pocket. Anytime I needed money, it was in my pocket, and I knew that I didn't put any money in there. It was one of those kind of things. I was spending my time going from every place I went, I walked. So I was in great shape. And I spent my time with people that were getting close to death at the hospice. I spent my time in the nursing home with people that were dying, and I was teaching meditation. And this is where I learned that when you take care of Dhamma, Dhamma takes care of you. People were giving me clothes. People were giving me new shoes. People were giving me rides wherever I wanted to go. It was amazing. And I didn't really care whether they did it or not. That was the thing that was most amazing, because Dhamma gives you what is necessary, not necessarily what you want, but it will give you what you need. And I learned a great lesson from that. And when I became a monk, I had no worries. And when Michael and I started out driving across country at the meditation center, we I had we had $10 between us, something like that. Laughs. Student interruption. And we went across the country and back again. What me worry? Laughs. Majjhima Nikāya, see footnote for the link to Five Visions of a Dying Man. Herein, when a person with a blemish understands it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will arouse zeal, make effort, and instigate energy to abandon that blemish, and that he will die without lust, hate, and delusion, without blemish, with mind undefiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or a smithy covered with dirt and stains, and the owners used it and had it cleaned and did not put it in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get cleaner and brighter later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with a blemish understands it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind undefiled. Section 6. Herein, when a person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have no blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will give attention to the sign of the beautiful. Bhante Vimalaramsi, the sign of the beautiful is your object of meditation. Majjhima Nikāya, that by this doing so lust will infect his mind, and that he will die with lust, hate, and delusion, with a blemish, with mind defiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or smithy clean and bright, and the owners neither used it nor had it cleaned, but put it in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get more defiled and more stained later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have no blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind defiled. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Why? This is not being aware of what's happening in the present moment, is not practicing the 6 Rs. This is something that happens with a lot of people, especially when they overestimate their attainment. Then they think, I've already done the work. I don't have to do anything. And then they act in the way that they normally act, and they don't try to purify their mind. And therein lies the problem, because you start dirtying that dish up really a lot, and your all the habitual tendencies have not been cleaned up. So you would have a tendency to die with a mind that tends more towards the hell realms than the heavenly realms.
Yes, sorry, I was unmuted. Muted. Is Nanda madam, you can explain, madam.
Well, simile is very interesting. It is important for us to remember to 6R our unwholesome states continuously, repeatedly, as often as possible. To me, that's a way of purifying our mind. And the more we practice 6R, our mind is much more inclined towards wholesome states. So to me, the most important thing is to, as much as possible, incline our minds into wholesome states, and then everything seems to work out better. Even at death, our mind will naturally incline towards the wholesome states. Keeping precepts are vitally important as well. So I personally think we twin practitioners are very fortunate to have this method to practice regularly, as often as possible on a daily basis, to purify our mind and radiate metta to ourselves and everyone around us, and incline our mind to wholesome states.
Yes, madam, rightly said, ma'am. Really, it is very true that the 6R process is following six right effort as Buddha taught. And as soon as we relax from the unwholesome states, it gives us space of purity. Thank you, Nanda madam. I think we can end by sharing the merits. Yes, we can all read together the sharing merits. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck and the fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. And may all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and air, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Nanda Madam. Thank you, Pai. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. And we will meet next week with the same sutta completion. Thank you all. Wishing all happiness. Thank you.